All right, welcome back to Mr. PL's Precal. This is Unit 5, Topic 2, Lesson 6. We're going to be solving equations, matrix equations. All right, so if we have this given matrix, which we have seen before, we know how to multiply them now by rows and by columns, and that will give us, but what if we're given the answer? And we're trying to figure out, well, what is this missing matrix? So this matrix times what missing matrix would equal this answer. So it's a little bit different than what we've been doing up to now, which is taking two matrices and finding the answer. Okay, so you're going to solve it basically the exact same way that you would solve a normal equation. So if you think of the equation of 8 times x equals 16. Now obviously x would have to be 2. But the way that you would solve that is by getting rid of this leading coefficient. And you would get rid of it by dividing by 8, because multiplying by 8 and divided by 8 are the exact opposites of each other. So they're inverses of each other. 16 divided by 8 would equal 2. Well, I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to use the inverse. The inverse of multiplying by 8 would be divide by 8. So therefore, I'm going to divide both sides by I'm going to use the inverse to do it to both sides. Now, looking at this example number 1, so looking down here, so we have 1/2 x equals 7. Now, the inverse of multiplying by half would be multiplying something by 2. So I will multiply both sides by 2, so I'm just simply going to multiply the answer by the inverse of whatever's in front of the variable. Well, I'm going to do the exact same here. I'm going to find the inverse of this matrix, and we have already done that in the last video. We cross multiply here, so 4 times 1 is 4, and -3 times -1 is 3. So I'm going to find the determinant by subtracting. 4 minus 3 means the determinant of A, I'm going to call this A, is 1. All right, so now how do I find the inverse? Now, we've also covered that in a previous video. You take the 4 and the 1 here, and you switch their places, and then you take the 2 diagonal going the opposite direction, and you change them to the opposite. Now, this is not actually the inverse of this just yet, because then I have to multiply this by 1 over the determinant. Well, that's going to be nice and easy. Or is it the same thing as dividing all these numbers by 1? Well, that, like I said, that's going to be easy because that's literally exactly what it is. So now this is the inverse of this matrix. So I'm going to now multiply that, the inverse of matrix A, multiplied by this. Because once again, I'm just multiplying both sides. If this answer is like the 7 here, the answer, I'm just going to multiply it by the inverse of that number. So 8, this is -6, -5, and 3. I'm just going to copy this. So this times this is going to equal my answer. Now, we've gone over how to do this, so I'm going to multiply this row. To find the first row, first column, I'm going to multiply this first row by this first column. 1 times 8 is 8, and add it to 1 times -6. To get this number, I multiply the second row times the first column. 3 times 8 is 24, and add that to 4 times -6 is -24. All right, first row, second column, so I multiply first row times second column, so that's 5 and plus 3. And then last but not least, second row times second column. So 3 times -5 is -15. Add that to 4 times 3, which is 12. All right, so clean that up a little bit. That equals -2. That equals 0. That's 8. And that is -3. And voila, we have our answer. X equals this. There's our matrix. Now, you can double check that by multiplying this by this, and you will see that this times this is this. You can double check it and make sure then it is correct. Okay, so basically here are the exact same steps, but this time I'm going to do it with my graphing calculator. I'm actually going to have to pause, or actually I'm going to go through this one exactly because I want to show you, talk about the steps. I know I did that in a previous video. So we want to find the inverse of this, which is easy. We actually don't have to find this. We can just simply put this into our graphing calculator. So it says second matrix, so I'm going to press second matrix, which gives me to this screen right here, and then I'm going to go over to where it says edit, and then I'm going to change it to a 2 by 3. All right, and then it's going to look like this, and then I'm just going to put these numbers in one at a time. -12, enter, -5, enter, 18, enter, 4, enter, -3, enter, and -13, enter. Okay, so now I've got that one done. So I go back to second matrix, and now I'm going to put, so this is what I called this one matrix A, and I'm going to call this one matrix B. So I'm going to put that one in as well. I'm going to go second matrix, over to edit, down to B. I'm going to make it a 2 by 2, and then I'm going to put the numbers in one at a time. All right, now I've done the hard part now, and now comes the easier part. So now it's just a matter of using what I put in. So I've put this in so you can see my calculator. This is a 2 by 3 and this is a 2 by 2. Now the reason why I'm using a calculator is because that's going to make it easier to do the multiplication. I know we showed you how to multiply a 2 by 2 times another 2 by 2, but this is going to require a 2 by 3 times a 2 by 2. So we're using the calculators that assist us. Now I'm going to use this. Okay, actually I put this in backwards. So I'm going to do inverse of B. I guess I should have put this as A and this as B. No big deal. So I'm going to do inverse of B times matrix A. So I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to go down to matrix B, press enter, quit that. Okay, second matrix A. So I get this in my calculator. And then I'm going to press the inverse button so it looks like this. And I'm going to say times second matrix and then put in B. Wait, A. Oh, I got to start all over again. So I put this in an A. Okay, so I did have that right. So A inverse times B. And, of course, it's going to give me... Okay, so you're probably wondering why I was doing everything backwards again. Once again, I'm looking at these directions, and I've thrown off because I'm using this in A, this is B. So really what I did was inverse of B. Remember, this is matrix B right here. Inverse of B times matrix A, and then it gives me my answer. And that's it. So it's going to be 0, -2, -3, and then 4, 5, -1. And there's your answer. All right, so one more example of that, but let's say we see a two-step equation here. So we have, this is like this two-step equation. So what if we have multiplication and addition? So what would you do first? You would subtract 3 from both sides. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to subtract this matrix from this. So that's going to give me this times x equals that new matrix. So I'm going to rewrite that, -7, -9, 4, and 5 times x is equal to... All right, so now once again, order does matter in this case, so I'm taking this away from this. So 1 minus the 3 makes -2, 6 minus the 4 makes 2, 9 minus the 4 makes 5, and -6 minus -3 more. Minus a negative is really plus. -6 plus 3 is -3. All right, so now I can then enter these matrix, and to save time, this time I'm actually going to pause the video, and I'm going to enter this as A and enter this as B, and then I'm going to label it because obviously last time I got confused, and then I'm going to put inverse of A times B, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so I've entered both of these matrix into there by pressing edit, going over to edit and putting A and B in, and then I'm going to put on my screen inverse of A, that's the inverse of this, and multiply it by this. And then press enter, and it should give you the same numbers that I just got, and that is our solution. So x is 8, -2, -6, and 1. So this matrix times this and then added to this should equal this matrix. Okay, and I'm actually going to stop it right there and do system of equations on the next video. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.